Okay, did we finish the Minchas Chinuch last week? I don't know if we did.
I think we did.
We did. Okay, so I sent you just now, I'll screen share it too because I just sent you last minute page from Aspaklaria.
Yeah, I've got it. It's like 9 pages or something.
I think it's supposed to be 17. It's only 9?
Let me see how many I got. 17.
17. Okay.
We're going to do all 17?
No.
Okay.
No. But let me bring it up on my screen because I just closed by mistake. Okay. Second. Okay. So we're going to do a simple search on this page for Go'el. And I think we're going to actually work our way backwards. Just easier that way. There are 54 mentions of the word Go'el in these 17 pages. So let us go to the end, to page 17, and work our way backwards. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. This is from the Shem Mishmuel. Shem Mishmuel was the son of the Avnei Nezer. He was the Rebbe in Sochachav and a very popular sefer. And the last page in his handout says, this is from the Shem Mishmuel in Vaschana, Taf Reish Pei. So the Shem Mishmuel says here, actually, we'll do a screen share so people watch this share if and when, they'll be able to follow inside. Okay. Okay. So Shem Mishmuel says,
You're not sharing.
What?
Okay, it took a minute for it to come up.
Okay. This is for the good of the murderer, that there is a Go'el HaDam. It's for his benefit, right? So this is a great thing for the Rotzeach, for the Rotzeach B'Shoyim. He lost, but when you kill somebody else as a Shem Mishmuel, you lose your right to life, so to speak. Your chiyus is destroyed. But nevertheless, Rotzeach finds for himself, so to speak, or creates for himself, a new life force by joining up in Levium, who obviously are the great teachers in Am Yisrael. And he's able to back him up. What?
Draw down.
Thank you. Life force by adding on to Levium. You'll show in order to do this, he has to completely negate it from his own existence. And he's got to be in his own eyes as if he doesn't exist. So if he admits his own non-existence, then he can derive life force from others. Because as long as he's not negated from his own metzius, it's not possible for him to be nullified and attacked on to another entity. That's why it's said for his benefit, that it's a reshus or a mitzvah for the Go'el HaDam to kill him. So that his existence should not be considered existence even in his own eyes. Then he has the capacity to negate himself, to be as if he's not, as if he is not. We can say this is of itself atonement on the sin. Since his sin brought him to the state where he has the capacity to nullify himself so much, to the point that his existence is not considered existence even in his own eyes. This is a great level of functioning in this world. That your reality is as naught in your eyes, like Moshe Rabbeinu, right? His own reality was as naught for him. He was what he was by virtue of his being completely nullified to Hashem and to Klal Yisrael. Chazal say, that which wisdom makes a crown for its head, humility makes a heel for its soul, S-O-L-E, right? So that is the top of pinnacle of Chachma. One begins to get to the reaches of Anova. Okay, there's the opposite Sitra Achra, which is of course based primarily on Gaiva, on arrogance and pride, and as they say in Yiddish, Hand von sich, holding of oneself. The foreign forces, all of their the concept is hot air, large gaiva, and yeshus, and their reality. This is a big thing by Hasidim, by not so much by Misnagdim. Although in the end everybody's striving for the same thing, but there's a difference in how they are defined. In Hasidus, it's called Bittul Hayesh, when it's supposed to negate one's yeshus to the complete. It's to the utmost, right? And in Vishnitz Hasidim, Vishnitz they have this notion of the Heilige Schwanz, which means the holy tail. In other words, the Hasidim have to see themselves as the tail of the Rebbe, and they don't do anything on their own. They are just schwanzes, tails. Mm-hmm. Sounds worse than it is. But and in other Hasidus, particularly Chabad, they have this notion of complete bittul to the Rebbe, which they see as bittul to HaKadosh Baruch. By Misnagdim, especially by the Slobodka school of Musar, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as Rabbi Avraham Elia Kaplan writes in one of his essays on Anova. He says, a person can only be in Anav if they know how great they are. Once you realize that you're at the heights of the Himalaya and the greatness of your neshama, then you can start being in Anav. That leads to the famous Navarnik joke. Navarnik was very much into Bittul Yesh, kind of like Hasidim, but it was their own way. It says that the two, I'm sure you've heard this joke before, if not, it's a good joke, relatively. That is that two Navarnik Bachrim are sitting and learning Musar together. So one is saying to the other, I'm Efes, Shav, Klum, nothing. The other says, you're an Efes, Shav, Klum, I'm a garnished, I'm less than Efes, I'm mamish, the ultimate in lowness, whatever. And along comes a new bacher. He comes into Navardik. He says, okay, this is what they do when Navardik does the Navardikers do. So he starts sitting there and saying, I'm a garnished, I'm an Efes, etc., etc. So the one older bacher says the other older bacher, look at him. He just got here. Already he thinks he's a zero. So the point is that it requires a avodah to get to be a zero, right? You can't just say, I'm a zero. And the greatest insult probably in human history was issued by Winston Churchill when describing his successor and adversary, Clement Attlee. Winston Churchill said about Clement Attlee, Mr. Attlee is a modest man and he has much to be modest about. So so that is obviously true another is something which has to be accomplished on the back of greatness. But in any event, so this bittul is what is the kapara for the Avera. When he's his battle in his own eyes, so also mystically, he pushes aside the chitzonim, the powers of the other side, and misavim, which came to being a mikoach hachet on account of his sin. Therefore, sin will be a chon. The Shalomar Shalo Levad Shachet Parach. Now that's not just that the sin has flown away. Mitzvah yoser. Right? The tshuva me'avos donos nasulos zchuyos. Certainly, shkogos can become zchuyos, right? Because he did it b'shogeg, and it becomes more of a mitzvah. Shezeh goram nuchinas habitul, because this avera caused him to mevatel himself. This way, he draws new life to himself. Okay.
Okay.
What do you think?
It's interesting. It's very much drosh.
Oh yes, yes.
Being more of a Litvish kind of person is not quite what I was looking for, but it's definitely an interesting idea.
Okay. So let us go back now to page 49. No, it's actually page, no, not 49, I'm sorry. To page, what's the 49 time it says Go'el HaDam here. It's page 15. The last, it's actually all it says on page 15 is Hamek Dover. And then it goes on to the next page. So we're looking at something more Litvish here, the Hamek Dover. And it's Eve. And it's in the last line of the Netziv from Dvarim Yutes Yud Beis. What?
Where are you reading? The last paragraph?
Line of Netziv, right before Machashavah.
Okay.
Nasu B'Yagol HaDam, Mashe Eino in Lusonei, the Var B'li Das Bura. A person who's a sonei, who hated the person, who had killed inadvertently, right? And it's not clear what the das was. In other words, was there something there? You know, Rabbi Sosalanter said once that somebody came to him for a heter to eat on Yom Kippur. And Al Pidin, this person was allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. But it was difficult for him to be matzeret because he was thinking, am I sure that he has no thought of minus, of heresy, or of questionable intent in his mind? In other words, maybe, yes, he has to, but maybe he's also getting a geschmack, or even being a sense of rebellion that he's going to get to eat on Yom Kippur, right? So the das is sometimes ambiguous. And here too, the das of a sonei who kills unintentionally is ambiguous, right? So therefore the halacha is, Afagav she'ena gole. He doesn't go into Galus. Because a sonei is not gole. He doesn't have that kapara. On the other hand, though, there is a Go'el HaDam, and we don't give it over directly to Go'el HaDam. He's given the chance to defend himself. We leave him to the power of coincidence, of happenstance. So the point is that the das of the person is what gives us the capacity to either protect him from the Go'el HaDam or not protect him from the Go'el HaDam. Us. Now, if his das is in suffix, then he himself, Mido Keneged Mido, has to be put in a situation of ambiguity in that we're not sure what was going on with him. Mido Keneged Mido, he can never be sure of the Go'el HaDam. Mm-hmm. So there is always this, when we put in Miklat, it's because we're reasonably sure that his das was legit. And therefore, we protect him from all that. We're not sure about that, then we put him into the hands of the happenstance of whether Go'el HaDam can reach him or not. Okay? Moving on backwards. Now we're going to do a Shamshav Hirsch. That's immediately preceding. Okay?
Yeah.
So he says a similar idea. If you take a look at the second paragraph at the bottom, on Dvarim Yutes Yud Aleph, each sonei, right? The same idea. Farnam Pasuk Dal Harika V'Rashlanus is already stated for Pasuk Dal that killing it out of negligence. Nitfeses is considered Kariga B'Shulgaga, is only considered to be killing inadvertently. Rakim Loyu Yachasei Eva, only if there weren't relations of animosity, Ben Rotzach, Ben Horek, haharu, between the killer and the victim.
If there were not.
Sorry?
If there were not such relations.
Yeah, if there were not. Okay. A connected zeh, in contradistinction to that, if there was animosity between them, menichim es sharus, we assume the possibility, or even the likelihood, that the negligence was intentional. He's not subject to the atonement of the mikla. Nevertheless, the fact that there were relations with animosity is not sufficient to require the killer to be put to death by basing. It's not enough with substantial evidence to say something to base upon them a decree of death. For that purpose, you have to prove that the intent and the execution was on was on the with the intent to murder. Also, we have to prove that there was enough in the blow in order to kill. Right? This is and that the death came as a result of the blow. Then Allah was you had might kill Reuben and killed said Shimon. It's not clear. It's machlokes in the Gemara what the halacha is. It's possible that the death penalty becomes the sufficient ground. It's sufficient grounds for the death penalty. That the murder wanted to kill. He also kill the person on whom one is liable for death. So there was liable death. Even a person who is the victim. He's not that which he had in mind. Unless the killing was executed, to whom upon was directed. That might kill this one, kill that one, you are exempt. In any event, intentionality is a very important issue, whichever way we go, in the question of the murder of a Rotzeach, right? And we are actually more than probably any other halacha in Torah required to assess as best we can the intentionality in a case of a Rotzeach b'shogeg. You have to figure out it's Karav Lamezid, Karav Laones. There's several sugyas in Makkos, where you have to figure out what exactly was going through his mind, if anything. And therefore, there's clearly in this issue of Rotzeach an idea of, which is inseparable from the Go'el HaDam, which is that a person who has committed an act of Retzicha has to be put into a situation which is similar to that which he brought about. And like you said, uncertainty for uncertainty. And I don't know exactly why this halacha should be unique. Maybe we'll see something more explicit as we go along. But I think it has something to do with whether it's considered to be true evil or not considered to be true evil. And the idea perhaps relates back to the question of whether I am responsible for his death or whether HaKadosh Baruch Hu is responsible for his death. I'm just was it decreed that he die, or am I responsible for it? The decree that he die, and I was just the agency, or I'm responsible because I did something wrong. I'm not sure. I'm speculating about that.
Well, but we have this whole idea of Megalgalin Chiyuv al Yedei Chayav, right?
Right.
So that fits into here somewhere.
Yes. Okay, let's go back to the other Rav Shmuel Hirsch and see what he says. Gadol Avoni. So Cain says, "Is my sin so great? So it's interesting. Shmuel Hirsch, he says, had I just killed my brother, I would have been able to tolerate my sin. But I didn't know. that by killing him, I killed myself. Yesi Arur, I became accursed, v'nah, and wandering. I undermine all of my merit in the world and in society. This part of penalty is also placed in the Torah on somebody who kills inadvertently. Who Galus, he travels in Galus. Afopi she'eno nod. Even though he's not constant, nod is to travel, nod is to constantly be wandering, right? So yeah, he doesn't have to wander. He stays in the Mikra, right? Nevertheless, the fact that he's uprooted from his original place, it is constant fear because of Go'el HaDam. Miskayim, therefore fulfilled his fear by Yakom Otzayir. Or perhaps anybody finds he's going to kill him. Okay, obviously that's not the same thing again as Kayin, but it's a similar idea, right? Second. V'gam parshas Egla Rufa kshur l'answer shakayin. Also, Egla Rufa, the neck, the calf who has his neck ring, is linked to Egla Rufa, to Kayin. In a near tzachadam, person to kill, we don't know who killed him. The killer tossed the body, the corpse, out into the open. Kilag the basin is like scoffing at the court. Ata Shuma basin that's here now is incumbent upon basin to pronounce. Shame it's we didn't do it. Not partners. They do not treat passers-by who are strangers. Kiminag Amshi still like the Sodomites did. At but first they have to take a gla asher lo ubad ba v'lo mishchavol, and a calf which has never been worked. The kachareim mivatim, and this they express Beis Yisrael lo yizbol ba'alei zroa. The Am Yisrael will not tolerate people who are
bullies.
Thank you, bullies. Hamushalchim koresen u'porkim mazol mishpat, who cast off any muzzle and remove all the yoke burden of law. This is the land in which you do it has to be an unworked wadi, which will never be worked again and no planted. So this also here, the land will not be able to for Kain to create any produce. So in other words, the Egla Rufa, which has never produced anything, right? Has never been, I guess, also has never been bullied. I guess it's part of it. I'm not 100% sure about that. Not looking inside, but and that's similar. And it's not going to be that. It was all similar to what happened to Kain. So in any event, Machashavah links the Go'el HaDam, Galus of Go'el HaDam, to Kayin and what befell Kayin. And in fact, this fits into the Shem Shmuel's idea, which you mentioned before, that a person who kills, he's not just killing, like Machashavah says, he's not just killing the other person, he's killing himself. Anytime you kill somebody, and Chas v'Shalom, we should never know for such things, something dies within you. And that's why you have to be subject to this disruption and uprooting and this lack of productivity, which comes as a result. Okay? And the next one, this one embraces Dal Gimel. Next one, Mishmos Chavav base. Now, Kamina came. Near embraces says, "Well, a murderer is considered kimisha baz, as somebody who denigrates umakish and denies b'tchunas selam elokim shel adam, the characteristic of man's selam elokim. Hashofech tamo shel adam, somebody who spills the blood of somebody else, diminishes the divine image of the entire human society. And in it, he damages. Rosh Hashanah, foremost, the Musom Sharashim Krovim El Hanirtzach, the human image of the people are closest to the murder victim. Therefore, if the murder victim was a free person, you must Go'el HaDam. He's put to death by the Go'el HaDam, who are each the closest relative. Ebed Knani ain't no Go'el. Ebed Knani has no Go'el because he has no relative. Yeah, the Kohen came. He has no Go'el HaDam. Shukach memaleh tzibur es makom Go'el HaDam. That's why the Kohen came. We talking about what the tzibur does. Hatzibur lakum linkom es nikmat selam elokim v'shebeish hazeh. So this is doesn't really explain how the Go'el HaDam introduces the selam elokim by putting the other person in a state of constant danger. But I'm assuming that the idea is that there has to be only, without a balance, there's a lack of Selam Elokim, there's a lack of what we call, in Micha and Navi, calls Asos Mishpat, and therefore there has to be somebody who's going to be Osa Mishpat, right? And that just like Kosh Baruch Hu's Osa Mishpat Geri Osa Ma'amona, this person has to be, the Go'el HaDam must be Osa Mishpat. So the Asiyas Mishpat is what returns the balance of Selam Elokim to both the world and to the people who I'm not sure again how the relatives lose their Selam Elokim or their Selam Elokim is damaged, but evidently that are coming somehow to compensate for that.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, let us continue with the perusal here. Moving backwards here. The Barbanel on page 13.
Okay.
Okay. The second one, by Mikra Lamed Hay test. Diber Tchil Rei Biado. First it talks about in the pasuk about somebody who kills with his own hands, and then Chakar Rei Barma, somebody kills with treachery. The dash ein Go'el HaDam memis ad shishafet harotzech. According to this Machlekes, obviously, but according to the Rambam, Go'el HaDam does not kill until the person is judged. And the Rotzech has to sit there till the Kohen Gadol dies. And the Bible is trying to give a reason why the death of the Kohen Gadol is what gives him, puts him back, right? Because then everybody is going to be shocked. Everybody's going to tremble. And at that point, the Go'el HaDam is going to realize that people's lives are like a passing, fleeting shadow. Yosir Rayon Hanakamam Bilibo, and the idea of revenge will desist from his heart. Tishkot Hamayas Libo, and the travail in his heart will be silenced. That's the idea. In other words, the Mises Go'el HaDam is not the kapara. And I'm saying Mises Kohen Gadol is not a kapara for the Go'el HaDam. And it's not the end of this. I'm sorry, for the Rotzech. It's not the end. What?
You're for the Ritzayach.
Right. It's not the end of the period of kapara for the Rotzech. It's when the Go'el HaDam feels that he is actually not worth. It's not worth anymore pursuing the revenge.
That's a nice idea.
What?
That's a nice idea.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go backwards here to the one before, which is the Akedah, which is one of the early Achronim. He says, the first one here. No. No, the last one. last one from Bamidbar Lamed Hey Chav Hey, which is his spin on this idea. Amos Kohen Gadol v'nir lefisha Kohen Gadol Moshel Barei Leviim. I don't see that also. So Chiddush, I didn't know that. Kohen Gadol, the Arei Leviim are like the fiefdom of the Kohen Gadol, right? Since they're cities of Levim, and the Kohanim are sitting on top of the Levim, and the Kohen Gadol sits on top of the hierarchy of the Kohanim. So the Kohen Gadol's jurisdiction extends to Arei Mikla. They're like an enclaves, which are not subject to the laws of the king, but subject to the jurisdiction of the Kohen Gadol. Okay? So therefore, because he's the Moshe Barei Levim, so they serve him. Levim serve the Kohanim. So this guy, when he's in the Ir Miklat, he's really under the jurisdiction also of the Kohen Gadol by dint of his living there. So his term lasts until the end of one king. In other words, one ruler of the cities, the Kohen Gadol. So in essence, what we're saying is that he lives there until the death of the ruler. The ruler of the Ir Miklat is not the Melech. The ruler of the Ir Miklat is Kohen Gadol. And so that is he doesn't say why it should be linked to that, and that we can give various different theories, but it's an interesting idea that Kohen Gadol, because it's an Ir Miklat and it's not under jurisdiction of king, it's under jurisdiction of Kohen Gadol. Okay. It's an interesting idea. Going backwards further. I think we might have come to the end of one I want to see here. The long part for the Rambam, but I think maybe we'll skip that for now. Maybe next week we'll finish up the halacha. But turn back to page 5. Yaakov Ruveni. Yaakov Ruveni is kind of like a mystical, late. It's a Yaakov, but it's a kind of medrash. It's not clear to me. It's actually spent time with Rishonim. I think it might be a time with Achronim, and some stuff might come from the Rishonim or even earlier. I'm also going to go a tam bezeh. So here he says an interesting idea, similar to what did you just see? The Barbanel. I'm also going to go a tam bezeh ki uzet noch da tosha Go'el HaDam. When the Kohen Gadol dies, the Go'el HaDam becomes calm. Kiyan TV, because it's a natural thing. Sheisnachem ha'adam, person will be consoled. Bivolo tzara, if he had an anguish. Bivol tzara kazel zulaso, if that anguish comes for somebody else. Where it's my mourning is mitigated by a greater mourning that occurs to somebody else. And the aim of misas adam yosef misas Kohen Gadol. So the greatest tragedy in Am Yisrael is the death of the Kohen Gadol. So therefore, the tragedy of the death of Kohen Gadol mitigates the Go'el HaDam's sense of mourning, and therefore he's going to stop pursuing the Rotzeach. So again, a similar idea. That the idea is that the death of Kohen Gadol doesn't have to do with the punishment of the Rotzeach, but mitigates the Go'el
HaDam.
Go'el HaDam. And according to Barbanel, it's because it made him tremble more of death and put things in perspective. According to the not quite the same thing, but very similar in that one's mourning passes more when other people are mourning, especially when a great mourning befalls the Jewish people, such as the mourning over Kohen Gadol.
Okay. Sure.
I think that might be it. This one's interesting. Let's see. It's Midrash Tanchuma. Obviously, we're dealing with much earlier, on page 4. The last 2 lines. Midrash Tanchuma from Masay Yud Aleph. The Go'el HaDam. Adam was sent to Gan Eden. Blam is Garesh. Why? Should be Misal Doros, because he brought death on generations. So Vayatzir Lamus Miyan should die immediately. Richamto Olav. Hashem had mercy on him. Begay Rashton. You could kick them out. So Rav Shalom linked it to Cain. The Medrash Tanchuma links it even earlier. It's Adam. That Rachamim you had on Adam Rishon. Kimeolam, as the plus against Kimeolam Hema. At the beginning of the world, right, this Rachmanis and Chesed existed. Came Shema Moshe, when Moshe rose, put these Aramikla in place. Amar Moshe Belu. Ribono Zesho Reg Never Shishkava B'Darom or B'Tzafon Minayin Yichye. How is he going to know which way to go? We need them to be able to know which way to go. So Hashem said, right, make, as Rashi brings it, I believe, make highway markers, signs. Prepare for him the way that they shouldn't be wander about, and the Go'el HaDam find him. Your Gu, Elohim Mishpat Mavis, right? He's not supposed to die. He said, how am I going to do this? Eat cow seals, which I believe are road signs. Which directed our miklat yodea lelech l'sham. Shneimar tachin lecha derech. B'leratzchanin asa shvil b'derech shibuchu yatzilu. Because Baruch Hu made for murderers a pathway that they can go, and a world from which they can flee and be saved. The tzaddikim al achas kama b'kama. How much was the Baruch Hu make a derech with tzaddikim when they have to be saved? Yadrech anabim b'mishpat. He leads, he guides the humble in justice. So the main point I want to take from this Medrash Tanchuma is that it's not just Cain, it's Adam Rishon. The idea of the presumably, although the Medrash doesn't say, the Go'el HaDam in the case of Adam Rishon was the Kruvim who stood at the opening of Gan Eden with the Lad HaCher VaMisapeches, with whatever that sword was, the blade of the turning over sword, to prevent Adam coming back into Gan Eden. So the idea is that if you deprive, a similar idea, a person deprives somebody else of life force, they need to go into Galus, because that is, and they have to be subject to a danger, because, again, they deprived humanity, I think, of Etzel Elokim. We see Manu Rishon because he caused man to go down from being more immortal to being mortal.
Okay, wow, interesting.
Okay, so I think that's it for this source, and next week I think we can wrap up by seeing the halacha and the Rambam. How's that?
Right.
Actually, next week we're not going to learn unless we learn a different day of the week.
Yeah, maybe another night next week.
Okay, fine.
Shana Tova.
Okay, כתיבה וחתימה טובה.
כתיבה וחתימה טובה, שנה טובה מתוקה.
שכוייח. We start to learn more next year.
Amen.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.